In September of 1901, the city of Cleveland, Ohio, was on the threshold of a new era. The Industrial Revolution had turned the forest city into a center for industry, culture, and commerce. In fact, it was among one of the largest cities in the United States at the time. 36 years after the conclusion of the Civil War, Cleveland was given the honor of hosting the 35th National Encampment of the Grand Army of the Republic. The Grand Army of the Republic, commonly referred to as the G.A.R., was the preeminent fraternal organization of Civil War veterans. At its height, the G.A.R. had over 400,000 members. The National Encampment was an annual meeting of G.A.R. members held in cities across the country. The encampment scheduled to be in Cleveland would encompass much of the city, with events being held across the downtown area. The streets and buildings were sumptuously decorated with ribbons, garland, and bunting. Eagles were erected throughout Public Square and specifically around the newly dedicated Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Over 12,000 electric lights were installed so that the festivities would be illuminated throughout the night. In the days preceding the event, over 293,000 people came into the city, many staying in temporary lodging, including tents and converted railcars. Perhaps the most anticipated guest scheduled to be in attendance was Civil War veteran, former Ohio governor, and current president of the United States, William McKinley, who was set to speak at an event on September 12th. However, on September 6, 1901, as preparations for the encampment were in full swing, tragic news arrived from Buffalo, New York, where President McKinley was attending the enormous Pan-American Exposition. The president had been shot by an assassin. That day, the president was scheduled to spend part of his evening greeting guests at the Temple of Music. At 4:12 p.m., McKinley reached out to greet a man who had a handkerchief bound around his right hand. The man, Leon Czolgosz, a former steelworker from Cleveland who had become devoted to the cause of anarchism, fired 2 shots into the president's abdomen from a gun concealed beneath the handkerchief. McKinley was quickly transported to the exposition's first aid station, where local surgeons hastily treated his wounds. To some, it appeared as though the president would survive the assassination attempt. McKinley's secretary provided reassuring information to the press, leading many throughout the nation to believe that the president would recover. As the National Encampment commenced in Cleveland, a meeting was held at the Central Armory to give thanks for the recovery of the president. But on September 13th, news broke that McKinley's health was beginning to deteriorate. Unbeknownst to his physicians, an infection was taking hold around the wound. At 2:15 a.m. on September 14th, William McKinley died in his wife's arms while whispering her favorite hymn, "Nearer, My God, to Thee." When news of the president's death reached Cleveland, the jubilant atmosphere of the G.A.R. reunion quickly turned to mourning. The bright decorations throughout the city were draped in black cloth. The triumphant eagles in Public Square were adorned with large black M's in honor of the slain commander-in-chief. On September 19th, 10,000 attendees gathered once again at Cleveland's Central Armory for a memorial service in honor of William McKinley. For many, the third president to be killed in their lifetime. McKinley's body was conveyed back to Washington, where a large funeral was held. Over 100,000 people waited for hours in the rain to pay their final respects to the president's remains in the Capitol Rotunda. McKinley's body was then transported via train to his hometown of Canton, Ohio, where he was interred temporarily so that the construction of his monument could be undertaken. William McKinley was a beloved figure not only to a rapidly growing nation, but especially to the residents of his home state of Ohio. In 1894, he was invited to speak at the dedication of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. At the event, amidst throngs of spectators, he extolled the valiant service and patriotism of Cuyahoga County and her residents. He lamented the tragic deaths of 2 great American presidents, Abraham Lincoln and James A. Garfield, both of whom were honored with funerals in Cleveland's Public Square. Finally, he discussed the importance of patriotism and love of country. Standing there in the heart of Cleveland's Public Square, he said, quote, "But we must not forget, my fellow countrymen, that the Union which these brave men preserved and the liberties which they secured places upon us, the living, the gravest responsibility. We are the freest government on the face of the earth. Our strength rests in our patriotism. Anarchy flees before patriotism. Peace and order and security and liberty are safe so long as love of country burns in the hearts of the people."